So why Europe and not US for you?
Personally, I'd been to US in quite like 5 or 6 years back, and I felt a sense of insecurity and sense of anxiety in people there.
What Europe used to be, it has deteriorated a bit in terms of infrastructure, even in terms of safety somewhere. So is it true?
Yeah, I think there are several factors that have added since COVID, since lockdown. Especially, I've seen myself prices of normal things going 2 times or 3 times in past 5 years. Facilities like Somalia and infrastructure, taxes like the UK.
So is that there a change in that perception as well? That it's not only the engineers and doctors, but also big brands and big businesses coming out of India and going outside.
I see a lot of change that has happened in past couple of decades in India. I have been angel investor in a few startups in India. So I kind of track and monitor the macroeconomics of global landscape quite closely, and I think it's time for India.
What is the major difference you find in the startups between the startups of Europe versus the startups of India, and which one do you think are better?
Who is better? I mean, there's nothing like comparison in terms of who is better. The need of startups in India which would try to solve the global problem as well, because then only they would emerge on a global landscape.
हिंदी में कहते हैं ना कि पैसा बनाना है.
A lot of people in India are thinking that it's a quick way to make money, but that's not the case. It's more difficult way than doing a job.
As an investor, you won't invest in a startup with that thought process.
Taking an early exit, selling it off to someone, because investors realize that what's your exit plan. Even if you'll not say it, they'll know, judging by a person. And investors invest in people. They don't invest in ideas, because ideas, as you said, would pivot definitely.
Hi Gaurav, welcome to the Supreet Singh Show.
Hey Supreet, thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting me, and really glad to be here. Looking forward.
No, actually, coincidentally, this is the first virtual podcast we are recording, and you're the first guest, and it's a new beginning for us.
Oh, so, I mean, I've seen your previous podcast, and I did not realize this is the first virtual one. But yeah, really great, being the first guest on the virtual podcast, that gives you much more reach to a lot of people who are not in the same location with you. So really great doing this with you.
Gaurav, I was going through your bio. You have traveled a lot and you have done a lot of things. Staying Indian NRI podcast. You're hosting these shows as well, and the experience you have had so far. You are from India. So before going further, which part of India are you from?
So I'm from Indore. Basically, I did my education from St. Paul's in Indore, and then I did my engineering in computer science. Then I did my MBA from Birla Institute, BIMTech in Noida. And I lived in Delhi for starting off my career with HCL. I lived there for a few years, and then I moved to Pune as well. So I lived in Pune quite a bit. I traveled to Chennai, Bangalore for work, and then after that I moved out of India.
So how's life in Europe? You've been living in Europe since a while now.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been living in Europe permanently from last 8 years. Before that, I was traveling to Europe quite frequently. So just to give you a brief background about me, I'm primarily into IT consulting. I have consulted and delivered IT large-scale complex projects and programs for companies like Nike, Tommy Hilfiger, AstraZeneca, Novartis, Electrolux, a lot of these companies, and I've lived across 30 plus countries doing so. So traveling a lot for past 10
30
years.
plus countries.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, because of all these projects, you have to travel from one location to another. You have to meet the clients, you have to meet the stakeholders, you have to do a lot of knowledge transfer and sessions, and you have to learn a lot of things. So in that regards, I traveled to Europe a lot. I lived in US, I lived in Hong Kong, and I lived briefly in Europe as well. And I really liked Europe in terms of the work-life balance, especially, and the quality of life that you can have over here. So, with that regards, me and my wife decided that we'll move to Amsterdam, and we are calling it home for the past 8 years.
Past 8 years you've been living in Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's correct.
So you never thought of coming back to India like once?
Um, I mean, there is no question of coming back when you have never left, you know. So, I travel quite frequently back to India, and I kind of live there for quite some time as well. So, I've never left India, you know. So, it doesn't feel like missing something or being kind of far away from home. And luckily, my brother stays in London, and my parents travel here quite frequently. So yeah, we I kind of am a good place from that regards.
And I was going through the internet and I found before doing this podcast, I was doing some research that the highest diaspora of Indians living in Europe after UK, it is Amsterdam, it's Netherlands.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly popular. It was not so popular in the past, but last 5 years, you see a lot of inflow in people who are coming to Netherlands and Germany in particular for studies, for higher studies and jobs as well. So, especially after Brexit, there has been a lot of jobs that were created in Netherlands. And it kind of invited a lot of highly skilled immigrants, so-called, in the visa category. And if I give you some stats, there are around 8% of total population migrating from India to Europe is into Netherlands. And as you rightly said, UK being the largest, it's around 65%. So, you know, and I think there is around Germany is around 7% and 8% like that.
So if we talk about Europe in general, uh, so you said you have lived across Europe as well, not only in Netherlands.
Yeah.
Can you name some of those countries?
So I've lived briefly in UK, especially near Manchester. I've also stayed in Germany, in outskirts of Berlin, Slovenia. That's one of the cities I was there. I've lived quite some time in Basel in Switzerland, so really liked it there as well as Luxembourg, so and Belgium. So you know, if you see the geography, you can segregate Europe into two main parts. You know, that is Western Europe and Eastern Europe. So Western Europe is somewhat more developed, and you will see a lot more facilities in terms of jobs as well. It's a lot more, and you will see a lot of people moving to Western Europe as comparison to Eastern Europe. But Eastern Europe, from traveling point of view, is equally beautiful.
What is the difference you found between the areas where the Indian population is higher than compared to the countries where the Indian population is much lower? And what were the challenges? What were the major challenges between the two?
I mean, you know, I'm kind of astonished by the fact in whichever city I go, and even in remotest part of the Europe, you'll find at least an Indian restaurant. So Indian food is kind of loved across Europe. You know, you'll find at least one Indian restaurant in the remotest parts of the European cities as well. And you know, finding a good food is not a challenge, especially when you're traveling to so many different places. You know, you kind of like to try their local cuisines as well. But the key challenge, if you kind of start living in Europe, you know, when you are kind of renting out a house and when you are kind of, trying to set up your roots there, then there would be challenges like, you know, finding the right ingredients for your food or finding, creating a community or, you know, finding right people, meeting them because sometimes European cities can be really lonely if you do not have friends and family around, right? Especially in winters, because in winters, sun sets early and it's quite long nights and people try to remain indoors. So even with the family, and friends, people do a lot of indoor activities. So you'll not see anyone outside, and sometimes that can become a bit lonelier. So it's really kind of crucial when you start living in European countries. You try to make friends, try to mix up with people at work, or you know, try to do some personal activities as well.
There's a trend of people going to US. Canada, there has been a trend of people going to US, Canada, Australia, even if you talk about Europe in general. So people used to go more to UK, and after that it was Germany. When I was going through the stats, that Netherlands, the Indian diaspora in Netherlands is very huge, and people have been living there since a long time, and they have built up strong businesses as well. What was your first experience when you came to Netherlands? And you always have certain misconceptions as well when you go anywhere, or preconceived notions. So did you have any? Have you ever had any preconceived notion before you went to Amsterdam or Netherlands in general?
Yeah, like most of the Indians, I only knew Amsterdam for its touristic destinations and appeals, right? You get cannabis here, which is legal. You have red light district, which is kind of fascinating, really good nightlife. So I only knew that those parts, and I'm talking this about like 12 years back when I traveled to Amsterdam for the first time. Uh, and I kind of traveled 7 or 8 times after that subsequently, and I learned a lot of new things. Like bicycling is the most kind of activity that is done in Netherlands across the world. That's you'll find 2 bikes per person per population here in Netherlands. You will get separate bicycle lanes, which are more than at your actual roads itself across the Netherlands. So, there are a lot of things that you discover when you start living in the country. Some of the facts, like more majority of the land in Netherlands is below sea level. So, how this country was built was taking land back from the sea, and because of that it has really enriched soil, which is used for cultivating tulips or flowers in general, and it's one of the highest. So it's the highest biggest exporter of flowers, and third largest exporter of fruits, of vegetables and other things. So all these kind of things, you kind of tend to discover of late, and it was the first global superpower back in the day when there were new trading routes that were discovered, and uh, there were colonies being made before even British, came to the scene. So it was one of the first superpower in terms of navy. So all these things, kind of astonish me how great the culture and the legacy of a country is.
Whenever we talk about going to Europe, so it's always about the great architecture and clean roads, clean environment, and clean water. And but at the same time, uh, people people keep heavy budgets before going to Europe, even as a traveler, because it's very expensive. The life and basic amenities also are very expensive, and so how expensive is Europe in general in comparison to India, I would say?
It's very expensive. So, to give you some stats, a good rental place with a 1 bedroom apartment would cost anywhere around 1 lakh to 1.5 lakhs per month. That's the average starting price. But you get salaries accordingly as well. You get decent salaries. Uh, there is a lot of debate about purchase power parity, and you know, with the new tax laws, I see some of the influencers tweeting facilities like Somalia and infrastructure, and taxes like UK. So let me tell you, both of these are not true. These influencers would not have been to any of these countries they are talking about. So definitely there is a lot of gap in terms of the infrastructure that is being built, here from decades or from centuries. And to maintain that and to develop new activities, there is a high tax, which is 50% of your income on an average. It can vary from 40 to 50%, but on an average, it's around 50% to maintain those infrastructure. And people happily contribute to that because they see that things are developing at a faster pace. There is a good demand. There is a decent demand of houses as well. The economy is growing. So all of these factors kind of help to drive the growth. And uh, I think because of these reasons, people tend to think that it's kind of on the expensive side while traveling to Europe. And yeah, I mean, it's expensive to travel, but when you live here, you start earning here, then it's moderately okay.
But normally, what happens is, and this is what people are saying nowadays who are traveling to Europe, who have earlier traveled as well, and are again traveling, like even this year, last year, or even the year before that, that what Europe used to be, it has deteriorated a bit in terms of infrastructure, even in terms of safety somewhere. So, is it true?
Yeah, I think there are several factors that have added since COVID, since lockdown. Especially, I've seen myself prices of normal things going two times or three times in past 5 years. So it has become really expensive to live and sustain here. People have not seen the increments or the salary increase as to match that the inflation rate. It's coming down a bit, but not that much, So because of all those reasons, you see a lot of disparity in the rich and the poor, and a lot of the crimes are a result of that disparity, right? So especially in countries like UK, you see a lot of theft happening on the streets. You see videos coming every day, but it's not that much, I would say, in Netherlands particularly. There are some other countries in Europe which are facing issues of protest around the increase in prices. And these protests and these change in legislations kind of have deteriorated the environment. I would say that people consider was really good before COVID, and now it's not that great. But even after saying that, I would say if you compare it with the global scenario in the far west, or even in India, or even in some South Asian countries, it is still pretty much safe. It is still pretty much good in terms of living.
It isn't like that you go around a street at 12 midnight and there'll be two people coming and mugging you up. So that's not the scene.
Uh, so it is definitely seen in some areas, So if you have to kind of do a research on which areas you want to be out in late night, but not definitely in most touristic places. Especially, I'm talking about Netherlands only right now, because I do not have the numbers or the stats or the news for other countries. But it's very safe in Netherlands. I have not seen a single incident, at least in my neighborhood, in past few years. Uh, there may be one or two here and there, but not really major incidents that I've seen personally.
And I think as you are a consultant for a lot of IT companies, I think right now what you're doing, and you've worked with big companies, and I was not aware that you worked for pharmaceutical companies as well. So that is enticing for me because me being into the pharmaceuticals, so I was going through that. So you have had experiences through varied spaces, not only in Europe, but as you mentioned, you've been in US and other parts of the world as well. So in the last so many years, uh, India has also changed many folds, and these countries were ahead of India. I would say 15 years before, if I talk about 2009 or 10, there was a huge gap between India and Europe and India or the West in general, I would say. So, have you seen the gap reducing, and do you see that the globalization has benefited India the most in the last 15 years?
Of course, definitely. I see a lot of change that has happened in past couple of decades in India. I have been angel investor in a few startups in India. So I kind of track and monitor the macroeconomics of global landscape quite closely, and I think it's time for India. So it's not just the gap has reduced, but India has overtaken on certain levels and certain parameters to these countries as well, and especially backing up on the large young population segment that we have. I think it's a really good future if we are able to utilize these resources correctly. And I kind of have to mention really good work done by this government as well. I really praise them for at least having a sense of building a brand India, and uh, we can see that across the globe as well. And we live in the foreign countries, right? And how India was recognized earlier is really different how it's recognized now. And I can personally feel that difference.
And do you find that change when you go outside, meet people, and you tell people that you are from India, and 10 years ago versus today? So, do you find a difference in their viewpoint and the way they see you and or perceive you? So, is there any difference in that?
Yes, there is a major difference in that, right? And firstly, I think, as you said, globalization has played a key role. India has emerged as a technology leader in terms of providing technology services. And Indian are kind of very resonant to technology in terms of the mindset of other people. So, whenever we talk to anyone here locally, and they always think that we must be good in technology. That's considered by default. May not be the case, but yeah. So all these things have, and you see a kind of quite active leadership in terms of global presence as well, right? So all these things have added to kind of increase in respect for Indians in general, as well as considering the economic progress that we have been able to show to the world in past years, that has kind of deemed us as one of the really competitive or really emerging countries.
Do you also find that the PR of India has improved as well? And now, now it's people because there was a time when the Western countries thought that India is a land of snake charmers. Then there was a time then it was all about IT and engineers. That all the engineers and doctors they come from India. But today, even the best of the startups are from India. And as you are an angel investor, you invest in startups as well, and you help them become a big brand. So is that there a change in that perception as well, that it's not only the engineers and doctors, but also big brands and big businesses coming out of India and going outside?
I would say the change in perception from that point of view, from the businesses point of view, is yet to come. It's very nascent stage at the moment. There are a few good companies that are coming, but establishing themselves as global enterprises is something that needs to be done still. So there is a lot of gap there, and I think with people like me helping them out would really kind of set that stage. But you rightly said we are far off from far off from the perception of being land of snake charmers to land of doctors and engineers, and that change is quite natural as well. We are a young country in terms of uh, since our independence, and it has taken a toll to build our basic infras and the basic necessities. And we have done that in past 70 odd years, and now it's time to build upon our kind of the strong areas or the strong pursuits that we have in terms of providing good and highly skilled workforce. So using that, we can definitely build upon large businesses, and I kind of feel very comfortable in saying that the next Googles and Microsofts of the world would be from India.
That's very rightly said, and that's purely unfiltered. You just explained that there is still a gap, and that gap needs to be filled. And wherever there's a gap, there is an opportunity, and that opportunity. So individuals like you can make that change, create that change, and guide companies like us to hand holding them and becoming a global superpower, maybe, and then Microsoft and Google's can come from India instead. Another thing is that I really respect uh, all those people who have gone outside of India, because I always say that it's going out of your comfort zone, because the comfort zone is in the house where you are born, where you are raised, going outside and then making a mark and creating a change for your country as well. So, which you have also done. But there is a price you pay for that. And the first is your friend circle, especially from your school or college. You lose touch from them, and then you have to make a new friend circle. There is a loneliness syndrome. Sometimes I find that you feel lonely when you don't have many friends or many people to meet. That struggling phase, the initial struggle, I would say, the first 5 years of staying abroad. So, how did you cope up with that, and how did that change you as a person when you did that?
Well, air is thin at the top. No, but what I would like to start with is really thank you for all the nice words that you said. But I feel like I've done nothing in respect to if I see other people in my community, especially in the NRI community, have established so well. Really good businesses who have established the brand India far more than what I have done. So, long way for me. But yeah, you rightly said there are a lot, it takes a lot of guts for people to step out of their comfort zone and start a life from scratch. And a lot of times I would like to address this point as well, that a lot of times people in India think of people who are living outside India as outsiders. They do not have anything or any concerns for our country. But that is not true. Once you kind of move outside, you kind of miss all those things that you took for granted. And my channel, Staying Indian, is particularly about that difference as well. So we are trying to address that. Once we come out of India, we kind of have a lot more respect about the culture and about the things that we used to take for granted when we were there. And to kind of come along and do that in a different country, and you are being the kind of brand ambassador for your country every day, so that takes a lot of toll on certain things. You have to miss out on friends, you have to miss out on the festival activities, you miss out on the family, you kind of feel lonely. So all those things add up to a lot of pressure. All those things add up to a lot of challenge, especially to certain groups of people who are not working. So maybe your spouse is not working. So especially we have covered that part in our podcast as well. So it kind of adds more mental pressure. To answer your question, how do you cope up with that? Try to involve in some activities. You have communities, you have sports. You can do a lot of things to on personal grooming, or spend try to spend personal time with friends. Now you have facility to do video calls with your family as well, so take advantage of that. So yeah, all those things kind of help, but irrespective of all these things, there is a certain sense of loneliness, a certain sense of not being in India, so you kind of miss that as well, and embrace it. It's okay. Embrace that change and be confident on the decisions that you have taken of living outside and the reasons you have taken it for. It's not that you'll not be able to go back when you want to, right? So you can go back anytime.
What is the biggest misconception you find that people have? They are in India and they want to go abroad, and they misperceive a life outside, which actually, when they go, doesn't come out to be that, and then they get feel frustrated and get depressed as well, and call their families. It was not a right decision. I want to come back. So, what is that major misconception?
I think very good question, and it depends on the kind of things that you want to achieve. So a lot of people think that if I start living outside of India, I'll get a lot of time to travel and I'll see the world. Well, that is true to certain extent. It's not true on day-to-day basis. So out of 365 days, you can imagine 30 days traveling and seeing the world. But for rest or 300 days, you would be working, you would be doing day-to-day chores because you do not get any kind of a house help here. So you have to do everything by your own.
You have to pay your bills as well, which are like quite
Exactly.
humongous when you are in first world countries.
Exactly. So all those things kind of add up, and 300 days of rigorous, non-stop working, and then doing household things, and then not having people to talk to, and then living in a country which is totally different from your culture or from your environment, from your climate point of view. That adds up, and that is kind of a misconception that people have that life is really rosy when you live outside of India. It's not. Every place has its own challenges.
That's true. Every place has its own challenges, and the grass on the other side looks greener. And when it is Europe, it is like lush green, what it seems like. And that's why going to Europe is like the number one on the top of the list as a holiday destination for everyone in India, I would say. But at the same time, yes, you were saying something, sorry.
No, I was saying for holidays, it's best. For holidays, you can totally come and travel, and yeah, you'll feel the greatest vacation ever. But from living point of view, yeah, you need to calculate. You need to take a measured step rather than just seeing some Instagram photos and reels. Don't go on that. Social media is all, kind of a perception that is created, or it's not true. It's not entirely true. So take your own call, and as I said, take a measured and well-informed decision.
Again, life for 10 days in Europe is different than life for multiple years. So why Europe and not US for you?
So me personally, I'd been to US in quite like 5 or 6 years back, and I felt a sense of insecurity and sense of anxiety in people there. Uh, that's the straightforward reason. Maybe my perception may be different from others, but yeah, that's the reason I kind of chose not to go to US. I had a few opportunities there as well. But to me, the sense of safetiness, or the place where I can raise a family is more important than anything else. You can get a lot of good opportunities in US. You get a lot of higher salaries as compared to Europe and US. But to me, I think my family life is more important than my work life. So that's a personal reason why I chose Netherlands. Yeah.
Because otherwise, what people say is that even in Canada, there's a huge Indian population, and even the restaurants and streets, they look like streets in India nowadays. I've seen those personally because uh, the entire market is filled with like Indian restaurants and Indian food and Indian stores. Whereas in Europe, it is only in certain areas. As Amsterdam or Netherlands, I would say there's a huge Hindu and Sikh population, so you might be finding a lot of temples and gurdwaras. But in other parts of Europe, it is still you'll find lesser number of people. As you mentioned that there might be one or two people at least you might have seen in the remotest part of the Europe, because we in general are a huge population and we are everywhere. So, but at but at the end. As you are away from the community, in a way the opportunity is higher. But if we think about the mental comfort, it is lesser because you don't see your people, your food, and you have to adapt a lot if you're not willing to. So that way, you must have met a lot of people uh, who must have who must be living in certain areas, and they must be thinking that I want to move to Canada, or want to move to this. So what do you suggest to them, like if you meet them?
I would say, first of all, try to understand yourself and your needs, and, your comfort zone. What kind of life you want, right? So all those questions you have to ask first, yourself. So living outside of your comfort zone is not for everyone. When you really like your house help, when you really like to get your things in your hand, when you really like others to do the actual hard work for you, and you kind of focus on your skills. all of those things, cannot be accomplished in all the countries. So try to find first of all what you really want, and then choose a country not just because of its travel destinations, not just because of its, kind of freedom or the salary it's offering, but for the longer run. If you're thinking this as in for 5 to 10 years as a decision, I think from that point of view, uh, will you be able to live in a place where you will not be able to meet a lot of people, or if you are open to make new friends and, do new activities, and, if you're that kind of a person who likes to go out a lot, then it may be for you. But, think from uh, perspective of what are your goals that you want to achieve.
For a holistic life.
Exactly, for a holistic life. So I kind of generally divide life into 7, 8 parameters, and each year I kind of measure them and create new targets for each of them, like your social life, personal life, health life, financial. All those parameters are important, and a well-balanced life is giving good importance to these kind of priorities. So yeah, you can find all these things, all this gyan online as well.
Yeah, yeah. As you said, all the gyan is available online,
Yeah.
but getting it firsthand from you, I think, is the best form of gyan, and it gives a lot of clarity because there's a trend in Punjab that if you are unable to get visa for Canada or Australia, so what people say, let's go to Europe. And they find any country wherever it is possible. They go to either Italy or France or Germany, and maybe Netherlands as well. I'm not too sure because still Netherlands is not on the top of the list. Maybe they're not aware. After this podcast, they might know about Netherlands as well. But I see. But the ultimate destination again becomes Canada. That is the first stepping stone. From there, after we get permanent residency in Europe, we'll go to Canada. So it's a stepping stone. So what do you want to say to them?
I have huge respects for all the Punjabis and the Sikhs that have migrated for ages in these countries. So the one or two remote restaurants I was talking about belongs to a Punjabi. So yeah, they have kind of open up businesses, and they are quite well settled in all of these countries. And I don't think that they would face any challenge in terms of settling into any new place, because they are hardworking people, and I've seen them firsthand, and I really have good friends, and I really love going to gurudwaras as well. That's one of my favorite places as well. So yeah, from that point of view, I don't find that they would face any challenge. They have good communities all across the globe. So, I mean, whatever destinations that they choose is good, and I'm sure they will be able to triumph.
So they need not hop, they can make it as their final destination as well.
Exactly. Just go and do your thing, guys. You kind of do it good. So yeah.
Okay. So you are an angel investor as well. You must be seeing startups in Europe, and also there are so many startups in India which are booming up since the last 7 years. What is the major difference you find in the startups between the startups of Europe versus the startups of India, and which one do you think are better?
So I mean, the major difference, if I talk about, are Europe is kind of focusing a lot on the environmental factors, the ESG, so it's called, the environment and sustainability goals. And a lot of startups are coming in that sector in Europe, so a lot of people are starting companies that would measure these ESG goals, that would align with the climate and environmental policies. And in India, we are focusing on the development, or you'll see a lot of agri-tech startups because we are a growing population. You will see a lot of startups in the consumer brands. We are exploring our own niche in there as well. So there's a lot of difference in the kind of local problem people are trying to solve, and startups, most of them emerge through local problems that people try to solve. But what I kind of feel is the need of startups in India which would try to solve the global problem as well, because then only they would emerge on a global landscape. So there are still a few unicorns that have been built on that. Still, a long way to go, as I said earlier. But who is better? I mean, there's nothing like comparison in terms of who is better. Every entrepreneur gives his best shot at it, and um, I think it's more of what things that you can learn and improve than the idea itself. A lot of people in India are thinking that it's a quick way to make money, but that's not the case. It's more difficult way than doing a job. So yeah, I've tried it personally, so I can say it from personal experience as well. Uh, and don't people are looking for once they get funded, all the problems would be solved. No, your problem starts once you get funded. So
Yes.
uh, so yeah, all these things. I think it's a kind of early stage in terms of a startup ecosystem that is evolving in India, and people will learn these things as they move along.
You're right that even I'm building up a company since last 12 years. And since last 3 or 4 years, I've been moving to the thought that I need to pivot or make my company in a way or restructure it in a way that it can uh, grow globally. We still, when we start a business in India or any startup in India, we are, yes, you're right, you're not thinking of the global parameter because uh, वो हिंदी में कहते हैं ना कि पैसा बनाना है, कि पैसा कमाना है, तो वो पहला थॉट आता है. सो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग तो है बट पैसा भी आना चाहिए.
Exactly.
सो दैट इज द थॉट फर्स्ट.
I think a lot of people start with that perception कि we start startup और पैसा जल्दी आ जाएगा, but that is not the case. The funding that you get is with strings attached. It means that you have to grow at that level which you have convinced an investor to, and that adds up a lot of pressure as well. So not everyone would be able to do it as well. So again, it's a really kind of a measured or a kind of not everyone should or would do it. So I kind of lost train of thoughts here, so I did it out. I was saying I had a really good point, but then I lost it.
You might remember it again. I'll ask you another question related to this. What should startups not do? As an investor, you can guide what a startup should not do, and you won't invest in a startup with that thought process or with that action in place.
So first thing is if I kind of establish a bit of context, I can before being an investor, I kind of started my own companies as well. So I joined a Holland startup, which is a ecosystem of early stage startup accelerator. Presented my ideas, got selected, got funded. I tried that. Before that, I was mentoring a few startups as well. Now also, I'm kind of helping some of the Indian deep tech startups to establish into European market. So I have a good learning of how a startup can become a global company, right? And from that point of view, some of the people that kind of start a company think from a very microscopic level that we are solving a problem for a niche segment, but you have to think from a longer run as well. To just don't think of making a quick money or a quick win, or taking an early exit, selling it off to someone, because investors realize that what's your exit plan. Even if you'll not say it, they'll know, judging by a person. And investors invest in people, they don't invest in ideas, because ideas, as said, would pivot definitely. Execution, a lot of people can execute better than you, but the kind of person you are, how reliable of a person you are, how much confident you are in what you're saying, all those kind of personal traits are more important to investor, at least for me, to invest into any company.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You have actually nailed it, and it's the simplest answer one can ever get. And if all the startups just keep the basics right, nothing can go wrong. This is what I feel.
Yeah, exactly. And being a startup, you have to change a lot of you have to mold a lot of your ideas and thoughts, and you have to adapt very quickly, and all those things kind of factor in the kind of personality the starting team has. If, then only they'll be able to do it.
You are an Indian, a passionate Indian, and who is trying to keep the Indians alive and making them stay connected with their roots in Europe, or even I think it's not only Europe but other parts of the world as well. So, what is the message you want to give to all the NRIs about India? And there are a lot of misconceptions which NRIs have about India as well. And as you mentioned that you travel a lot back to India, and you know the Indore is the cleanest city in India right now. And I was in Indore a few months ago. I didn't even saw a rapper on the street, and it was a great experience. Went to Chappan Dukan. Still, there was no rapper anywhere. It was an amazing experience. So, what is that message you want to give to the NRIs first? So that either they have to come to India to experience the new India, or at least stay connected.
So you mentioned Indore, and I cannot, stay behind commenting on it. Yeah, Indore has done a fabulous job in being the cleanest city for, I guess, seventh year in a row. And yeah, I kind of visit every year, and I'm kind of astonished how people are, cooperating in this endeavor. So I think for any successful, kind of policy, there is 80% of contribution from people and 20% from the government. So I think we have a tendency to blame everything on government, which is not the case. We have to think ourselves what we are, and that's the difference between people in Europe and people in India. So here, if you have set a policy, people will, kind of make sure that they follow it. And in India, if government sets a policy, people will find ways to break it. So I think that's the change in the mindset that needs to happen. But yeah, when you talk about NRIs, you can classify NRIs into two parts. One are like the young generation who have recently moved in past 10 years, and the older generation who has been living there for like 20 plus years. So there are no misconceptions for the younger generation NRIs because they have recently moved out, they have seen the progress, they kind of travel a lot. But the people who have lived here for longer term, who have adapted to the foreign culture more than they've forgotten or they've kind of not went back. There is a lot of change that has happened in India. You may not see it because of the Western media, how they want to portray India. So any small incident that happens which is negative to the image is kind of shown as a bigger picture, but that's not the case. Every country has its own things that they can improve. Definitely, India has its shortfalls as well. But having said that, there has been a lot that has been changed. A lot has been put into in terms of efforts, both from the government as well as from people point of view, and it's changing at a faster rate than ever. And in coming years, I feel that it is going to be one of the top destinations from kind of investment and from business point of view. So yeah, don't kind of go with the perceived notion is what message that I want to give.
And one message to all the Indians who think of moving to either coming to Europe for the studies, or moving there as an immigrant, moving to Europe as an immigrant. So, what thought process or what mindset they should keep before going to Europe or settling anywhere in Europe?
I think the only thing that one should keep in mind, and that is irrespective of you're trying to move away out of India or staying in India, is hard work. I think there is no escape to hard work. Especially, I see a lot of people who are kind of Gen Z generation. are thinking that there are shortcuts to make money through a lot of social media engagements that have been shown, but it's not true. It may be for the short run, it may be for a few people, very handful people. If you take those handful creators, they may not be even the 1% of the population of India, right? So don't go with those kind of images or kind of ideas that have been shared. Hard work is the key, irrespective of which country, which job or which position you land up in. And if you do really do work hard, you will definitely be able to achieve your goals. And I think one of the things that also people lag is setting up goals for yourself. So do set up some goals for yourself that you want to achieve and work hard towards them.
And even the successful ones who are sustaining the social media battle, I would say, I'm finding that even they are putting a lot of hard work in behind their content. That's why they are staying there. Whereas people find that uh, it's so easy and it can be done immediately. Like for example, I was uh, there was a guest on my podcast day before yesterday. Uh, Before meeting him, I had the notion that the content which he's putting in is like very easy and he's just lucky. But when I met him, asked him in detail how he was doing it, and then I found that it's really difficult bringing in new content every day. You write, you create, and then you edit, and they're doing it single-handedly. But only those are sustaining who are able to do it in the longer run, and that's again hard work. What are you saying? But whereas people find that there are shortcuts and it can be just done like that.
No, definitely, and especially when I'm personally running a podcast channel, it's not to kind of become a content creator. I'm not eyeing for that. It's genuinely for making a voice of a community heard, which is the NRI community. And from think from numbers point of view. I'm a number person. So India, NRI just crossed 100 billion in remittance last year.
Wow.
So that's that certain percentage of your GDP. And think of it from a state point of view. One of your state which is living outside of India and is contributing back to India. So that's a huge number. And let that sink in. Uh, and it's largest in the global population. So 100 billion, no one has crossed it till now. And we did it for 2 years successfully. So that's a large contributing segment of population to Indian growth story, and being considered as an outsider is not going to happen. So that's the reason why I started staying Indian. Having said that, yeah, it's true that there's no escape to hard work. A lot of these content creators who are really successful have worked really hard and for years, and now they are maybe enjoying their kind of hard-earned money or hard-earned success. But yeah, initial few years you have to work really hard.
It's an overnight success which takes many years.
Yeah, it's an overnight success which takes 20 years. I think Mr. Mittal of Shadi.com recently posted that as well. That it took him 20 years to
Yes,
be
yes.
successful where he is right now. And people think it's a overnight success.
That's true. That's true. Looking at you, people might be earlier perceiving that he just started that show and he's successful, but now people know the story. It has taken many many years, and it's the thought process as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Supreet, I'm think to my standards, to my goals that I have for myself, I'm far from being successful. So I'm still in the hard work zone, and I kind of work at least 15 to 16 hours a day. So and I have people that support me as well. So yeah, still not there.
So, on that note, one inspire me mantra from your end, as you said that you've just begun. So, and this is the first inspire me mantra of our virtual podcast series. So, yes, if you can share that for everyone, for the youth especially, inspire me mantra which has worked for you.
I think I kind of read or heard it somewhere that in life, you set up goals, you set up a highest peak that you want to achieve it, and then set a higher peak. So that's kind of which has inspired me. Don't get complacent with your achievements. Always, set up more difficult task that you want to achieve, and keep on going. Don't think about all the things that would stop you from achieving those, because there are a lot of people, a lot of things that would try to pull you back. Uh, but it's your perseverance, it's your hard work that would lead you to the success.
No, that has actually inspired me. You know, you when you reach somewhere, then you set another goal which is higher than that, and I'm going to take that from this conversation and I'm going to use it again.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I cannot take a credit for it. I don't remember the gentleman's name. I think it was Warren Buffett or something, but I kind of heard it in one of the TED Talks, maybe. So, yeah.
So it's great talking to you. And before leaving, I want to know why Netherlands is now Netherlands from Holland. So it's like a very generic question. I can Google it, but I want to know it from you.
Honestly, I don't know it either. A lot of people have asked me, and maybe I should find an answer to it, but I personally do not know why it was decided to change it. But Dutch people do not like it. So, who are kind of core Dutch people like Holland better than Netherlands? But yeah, I do not know the answer to it. Sorry.
No worries. So we'll Google it together. I think after
Yeah,
this.
definitely. Let me know when you find a good answer. I haven't been able to find a good answer for it.
Sure. It's been lovely, hosting you or, co-hosting each other in a way. But the best part is uh, that you're very candid, you are very straightforward, and you do it with ease. And I know why people like you. So now I am understanding it totally. That you talk about things with such an ease that it keeps and it puts a deep impact on everyone. Like the way you said your inspire me mantra, you told that, and it now has a deep impact in me. And you just said it, but it made a deep impact.
Thanks, Supreet. I mean, you have been really kind host to me with all those great words. I'm not sure how many people do really like me, but yeah, definitely. I try to keep it simple, even in my life as well. Being straightforward and keeping it simple. In at least in communication part, that kind of helps. And thanks for hosting. And it's really pleasure talking to you as well. And would like to learn more about your company, what you're trying to do, maybe offline. And yeah, I wish you really best for your podcast and your team.
Thank you so much.